Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person. Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing. He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
The Republican Party's racist.
Oh my God, he admitted it.
What's up, everybody? It's Tuesday. We got a show for you. It's a good show. Yes, we're going to, once again, talk about conspiracy theories and political violence. Seems to be a little bit of a relation to that. But also, we have updates about Brazil, what's going on. Did you know there was an election there? Kind of important. So, we'll get to that. I am going to talk about that later on. We also are going to talk about Elon Musk and Twitter. So, making some changes. So, we're going to talk about one of them that he's attempting to do, which is already not going over well. So, with that said, we also have Fox News not in favor of politicization of the Pelosi attack, and we have a CNN guest who is blaming both sides. Lots of both sidesisms going on today. So you're going to enjoy that. With that said, why don't we start out with Fox News? But before we do, please like and share the stream. Very helpful if you do so. All right. We have Cope. Lots of Cope. And Seethe. Sounds like a trashy ass news day. That's every day. It's every day. All right.
It's a shame that this has to be so politicized, because what happened is absolutely atrocious, no matter how you look at it. Democrats are blaming, Trump and his supporters and trying to make the connection here to his beliefs being QAnon and all of that. And that's just really, really unfortunate. Republicans also making this a really political issue by blaming immigration and failed policies. This is something that should never have happened.
That was Fox Business guest Lee Carter being a little upset, I guess, that there's some politicization of a political attack. And it's in a very same segment where, again, on the same news station where they've been politicizing the attack by noting that the man who we found out just recently overstayed his visa. Oh, did you see that? He's an immigrant. He's an illegal immigrant. You see how illegal immigrants they do all this crime. See, that's what happens. That's why we got to close the border. That's why we got to close the border. But wait a minute, he's from British Columbia. He's from Canada. Right wingers never talk about closing the border to Canada. They always seem to focus on the southern border. It's about the border. It's about the border, though. Which one? Which border? Now, again, it looks like they're reaching for any excuse, any sort of distraction to ignore the fact that, again, this man was obviously very mentally unbalanced and furthermore filled up with right-wing conspiracy theories. I mean, simple as that. I mentioned some of those conspiracies yesterday. Obviously, there's a whole anti-Semitism. Jews control the world. They're controlling everything. He claimed that Jews helped finance Hitler's political rise in Germany and suggested that a plot was involved in Russia's recent invasion of Ukraine. Of course, there's also, the QAnon stuff that he believes in. Oh, did you know that it's a zombie Hillary Clinton is eating babies? What? No, that's not. Oh my God, it's frustrating. And then you have, of course, the anti-vax conspiracy theories. Now, what's interesting about anti-vax stuff is, look, I've been talking about the anti-vax movement for quite some time. So, and this is something that I, didn't mention in some of the previous segments, but being anti-vax isn't necessarily 100% a right-wing thing. Yes, it's been largely adopted by the right wing as a result of COVID-19. I get it. But look, it used to start with some California, liberal wine moms who, who had read the debunked, Andrew Wakefield paper on autism and vaccines. Like, oh, well, we're putting poison into our kids and it's giving them autism. No, that's not the reality. I remember talking about Jenny McCarthy and Jim Carrey talking about how the vaccine's bad. So understand that this is not something that has been particularly 100% right wing. It is now, but still, it kind of goes across the aisle. And look, you can find videos of me going after those same people, those anti-vaxxers, all the way back in like 2015. That said, the other thing that's interesting here is this guy, again, obviously had some very, very right-wing views. He's a nudist, very pro nudity. Okay. So now the reason I bring that up is because now you have people like Tim Pool, for example, coming out and say, oh, you see, look at that. He's pro nudity. How can he be a right winger? Tim, I don't know if you understand this. Maybe like take the beanie off because it's choking off circulation to what I assume is your brain, unless the beanie is your brain. But you can be a nudist and into right-wing conspiracy theories. Yes, this is something that, is possible. It turns out people are a little bit more complicated and there are shades of gray, there's nuance, etc. But as far as, there's nothing that's mutually exclusive between conspiracy theories and being a nudist. So I just wanted to clarify that stuff. But then let's go to what's important about how this is actually a political attack. According to an interview police did with DePape, the alleged attacker, he admitted to breaking into the house, saying that when he had done so, broke in with a hammer. He said that he had surprised Pelosi, and therefore, there goes the narrative that the gay lover, prostitute, whatever thing that right-wingers were talking about, out the window. Out the broken window. According to the complaint, DePape said that he wanted to hold Nancy Pelosi hostage because they viewed her as, quote, the leader of the pack of lies told by the Democratic Party. Does that sound political? Gee, I don't know. Let's get into more information. And according to an FBI affidavit filed on Monday, DePape told officers in a recorded interview that he had planned to take her hostage. And if she were to tell him the truth, he would let her go. And if she had lied, he was going to, quote unquote, break her kneecaps. And then explain that once he had done so, she would wheel her into Congress, which would show other members of Congress that there were consequences to her actions. He also explained generally that he wanted to use Nancy Pelosi to lure in another unnamed individual. We don't know who that person is, obviously unnamed. But that's who are we talking about? Who? I don't know. What? Maybe Hillary Clinton? I don't know. Weird, right? Now, in the interview, he also stated that after he had struck Pelosi with the hammer, that's Paul Pelosi, he explained that her actions resulted in her husband taking the punishment instead. Law enforcement then also recovered zip ties in Pelosi's bedroom, in the hallway, near the front door of the residence, according to the affidavit, and found a roll of tape, white rope, a hammer, one pair of rubber and cloth gloves, and a journal in the suspect's backpack. Political. Seems kind of political. Just saying. Now, he also told officers when he broke in, again, that Paul Pelosi was in bed, appeared surprised, and that he told her he was looking for Nancy. Then he had went into the bathroom to call 911. But the suspect said that he did not leave then because, much like the American founding fathers with the British, he was fighting against tyranny without the option of surrender. Now, again, I got to note that this man is Canadian, but he sounds like he'd been brainwashed by right-wing media. Weird how that works out. Now, according to San Francisco Police Chief William Scott, telling CNN in an interview, quote, "There is absolutely no evidence that Mr. Pelosi knew this man. As a matter of fact, the evidence indicates the exact opposite." Political attack. Those are the facts. Now, that said, it's very inconvenient for Fox News because this guy happens to have, espoused a lot of the beliefs shared by the viewers of Fox News. And that really is the difference here. When a left-wing person does something terrible, and it has happened, the entire left generally tends to condemn him or her. But when a right-winger tends to do something terrible, which happens more often, that's a fact, well, what happens? Does the right wing, all of them, condemn them? Again, some. I showed you some of the examples. You had, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell coming out and saying what a horrible attack, and Meghan McCain, and, establishment figures like that. But then you get a lot of people making up conspiracy theories. Again, that's where we get the, what it was the gay's fault. Yeah, that's what it was. The gay prostitute. That's what it was. And all of it is to try to distract you instead of actually, denouncing the attack and taking responsibility for the rhetoric. Again, false flag, gay lover, leftist, legal immigrant. Yeah, that's what he was. That's what he was. No, they make things up because they don't want to take responsibility for the extremism that is inherent in the party. And of course, that's a big problem now. Didn't used to be a problem. Again, you'd have to go back before I was born, at least, where it wasn't at least this much of a problem with right-wing extremism. But now, it's a huge problem in the right wing. And by not trying to, put a stop to the extremist rhetoric, the Second Amendment solutions, all this stuff, they continue to invite more. And I think at this point, they know that and just don't care. Okay. Moving on. Here's the other part of the problem. Both sides. Well, just a week to go before the midterm elections, political violence has been on the rise. But according to a CNN commentator, on both sides, well, they're equally to blame for that political violence. Take a look.
This is about political rhetoric that has led to political violence, and that goes on both sides of the aisle. Juliet hinted at the fact that it does happen on both sides, and I think it's really important for us to remember that you look at Chuck Schumer in March of this year, when there was hints of the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade. He said that that would unleash a whirlwind, and he would hate to see what would happen at that point, and who knows what would hit them. 3 months later, a man was arrested outside of Justice Kavanaugh's home with a gun, with burglary tools, and arrested for trying to assassinate a Supreme Court justice. So it's important to remember this happens on both sides of the aisle, and it's incumbent on Republicans and Democrats to lower the temperature on divisive rhetoric.
So that was CNN contributor Alice Stewart, who was trying very, very, very hard to stress, both sides, there's violence on both sides. It's really bad. It's very, very equal, though. I mean, the violence is bad, but it's very, very even. I mean, I can't tell which society that does more violence. They must be both equally as violent. Really? Well, let's look at both sides, shall we? Now, this is according to data from the New America think tank. They found that last year, since September 11th, 2001, far-right terrorists had killed 122 people in the United States. How many people have been killed by the far left? 1. But there's no difference. No difference. A study from the Center of Strategic and International Studies last year found that since 2015, right-wing extremists have been involved in 267 plots or attacks. What would the far left, right? What they call the far left, 66. A Washington Post University of Maryland survey released in January also found attitudes about, violence against the government, where right-wingers, 40% of Republicans said, if we could definitely justify violence against the government. Now, that's compared with 23% of Democrats. Which side does more political violence? Alice can't tell. She can't tell everybody. She just can't tell. There's more information. Now, on Friday, the day of the attack against Paul Pelosi, U.S. security agencies issued a warning that domestic violent extremists pose heightened threats around the November 8th vote. So now, again, let's look at the context. What's driving that? What is driving these threats of political violence? Well, it turns out, quote, election-related perceptions of fraud and domestic violence extremist reactions to divisive topics will likely drive sporadic DVE plotting of violence and broader efforts to justify violence in the lead-up to and following the 2022 midterm election cycle, the agency said in a joint intelligence bulletin. What's driving this violence? Yeah, it's election. This discussion about election fraud. This discussion about, I don't know. It's the groomers. They're in the schools. They're grooming the children, and they're putting kitty litter boxes in the classroom for the furries. None of that's true. None of that's true. But guess what? It is leading to an uptick of violence. Is that a surprise? No, it shouldn't be. No, they are driving their viewers to doing violent things by telling them, oh my God, the world is ending. They're transing your kids. Oh, they're going to forcibly trans your children, and then they're going to drink their blood. What? No, that's absolutely ridiculous. What planet are you on? You are not on Earth. You're not in the same world as we are. You exist in your entire, in an entirely different reality. It's nuts. They're crazy. And look, it has, unfortunately, real repercussions, because generally, I mean, you could laugh at it. Like, oh, these nutty, QAnoners, whatever, right? But no, it has real implications here, real repercussions. In fact, a Democratic candidate in Pennsylvania was just recently assaulted in his backyard. And in July, a man with a gun had threatened Democratic Representative Pramila Jayapal at her home. Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell been the target of numerous violent threats. And of course, AOC is constantly threatened, harassed. Death threats, rape threats, you name it. Huh. Where's all this coming from? Not only that, but poll workers have also reported widespread threats after Trump and his followers blamed them for his 2020 election loss. And now some areas are saying, we can't find poll workers. The threats are so bad. The poll workers we had are quitting, and we can't find any to replace them. In fact, again, this is in Arizona, where you had armed people who are, they've got video cameras. They're watching drop boxes. They're accusing people who use the drop boxes for their intended purpose to drop off a ballot. Oh, you're just the mules. We found the mules. No, not a mule. Again, the entire thing is ridiculous and dangerous. Such actions raise serious concerns of voter intimidation, said the Justice Department in a filing to the Arizona Federal District Court, where a lawsuit has been filed over the issue. But I wonder who the violent ones are. Oh, look, has there been instances of violence in people on the left? Yeah, there has. There was, as she mentioned, and it's one of the only things that she can mention, other than the other one that I'm going to mention. You had an armed man in June traveling to Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh's house. Now, look, he was arrested and charged. That's good. That's good. It worked. It worked. The system worked. Nobody on the left cheered for this man or made memes or celebrated like, I hoped he would have been successful. Nobody on the left, and speaking of Steve Scalise, who was shot in 2017 during a congressional baseball game, no one from the left was saying, yeah, get him, Steve Scalise, we're going to mock you for being shot. No, that didn't happen. That didn't happen at all. And that's the difference. Again, when someone from the left does something terrible, the left gets together and denounces that person. But the right wing either lies, distorts, muddies the waters, blames the other side, it's Antifa, but never, ever takes responsibility. I mean, conservative voters now are awash in dangerous conspiracies and disinformation. Ironically, they're provoking the government, and this is something that I don't want to happen, to start looking at online disinformation. Ken Klippenstein wrote a huge piece in The Intercept about this, about the DOJ's like, we might have to look into online disinformation. Well, it's the last organization, agency that I want looking in to the internet and trying to police the internet. But it's because of these right-wing morons. Now, that said, I want to show you the next video here from the panel discussion. And thankfully, somebody actually pushed back.
When you say both sides, it is the Republican Party, many of them in leadership, who are telling their voters that your election was stolen. That is not true. It is Republicans who are telling, and not all Republicans, I'm saying there's some on the fringe, but it's moved to the center, the QAnon conspiracies, that there are Democratic leaders who are leading circles or abusing children, drinking blood, that Democrats hate God, hate the country. When you say this happens on both sides, you have to consider what this man said, why he was there. He said that he did not leave because, like American founding fathers with the British, he was fighting against tyranny. Who told him that he was fighting against tyranny? Many of the people who are on the ballot on the Republican ticket. So when you say both sides, consider what he said, why he was there, and who fed him that.
Look, this segment, I mean, that's a good response to it. But why is that lunatic on the segment to begin with? And I'm talking about Alice. Again, she is a Republican. She's an ex-Huckabee staffer. Mike Huckabee, not exactly known for making a lot of true statements. No, he loved jumping into the culture wars. So, I mean, that's the issue here, right? You have all these, people being featured as contributors to CNN. Of course, both sides. I can't tell who the violent ones. I can't tell actual facts and reality. No, she knows better, but she's got to protect her side. And that's what it is. I got to protect my side. I got to protect the Republicans. I can't be honest. That's the problem. And so, again, I know it's a moot point. I know she's never going to, feel any shame, but she ought to be ashamed of herself. We're continuing to perpetuate this nonsense narrative of both sides. Both sides. F off. All right. Moving on. Let's go to more crazy town. A Michigan Republican candidate made some unsurprising comments during a podcast, which was QAnon themed, so I think you're going to see why I'm unsurprised, just after the 2020 election. So now Christina Caramo went on to this podcast. I don't know the name of it. Don't really care. But here's what she said, quote, "If you go to the Satanic Temple website, they have an entire 5-minute video explaining why abortion is a religious ritual. They literally say that it is a sacrifice. It is a religious ritual for them to have an abortion. It is sick. And as you mentioned, the baby body parts, they sell the organs. There's a ton of money involved in freshly harvested organs. There's so much evidence out there." Baby parts. So now, okay, before I get to the rest of the insanity, anybody who's familiar with the Satanic Temple knows that it's basically a group of people who are secular, generally secular atheists, that are trying to use the right wing's religious freedom arguments against them. So she, again, flew right over her head. She has no idea. But anyway, went to the website. Here's what it said. On September 1st, 2021, Texas passed SB 8, which prohibited anyone from getting an abortion after a detectable fetal tone. The law also allowed citizens to sue people who obtained, performed, or helped perform an abortion. The Satanic Temple filed a lawsuit against Texas, stating that this law prohibits EST members from performing a religious ritual to remove non-viable fetal tissue up to 24 weeks of pregnancy. Oh, see, it's a religious ritual. Oh, see? They continue. This motion was made prior to the reversal of Roe v. Wade in late June 2022. After the Supreme Court ruling, Texas enforced its trigger ban on abortions, whereby abortion procedures became illegal within Texas state lines. Satanic Temple is requesting an immediate injunction because the law inhibits the Satanic Temple's members' ability to practice their religion freely. They hold that Texas abortion's ban is inspired by a religious dogma that asserts that life begins at conception, which contravenes the Satanic Temple's belief that non-viable fetal tissue is part of the pregnant person and is free to be voluntarily removed. EST claims that this law violates the Establishment Clause and Free Exercise Clause of the First Amendment, and that it legislates a religious viewpoint that prohibits the Satanic Temple members' ability to perform their religious practices freely. So, again, anybody who's a smart person knows exactly what the Satanic Temple is doing. They're using the same dumb religious argument against the people who actually are trying to use that argument to take away people's rights. Except the Satanic Temple is using it to protect people's rights. I know, it's brilliant. But again, you have to be kind of smart to understand what their aims are, what they're trying to do. So Again, they're not really serious about it being, oh, it's a religious ritual. Again, Karamo and people like her do not understand that they are being mocked. And having those religious arguments turned around against him. But let's get to the crazier stuff, right? With that out of the way. Oh, it's the baby party parts. They sell the organs. There's so much money involved. There's so much evidence. No, there's no evidence. What evidence do you have? What evidence do you have? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Now, here's the thing. Let me show you the organs, right? The organs. Because, you know, hey, there's so much money in these organs. So, you know, they're going to sell a lot of money. Or, I'm sorry, they're going to sell a lot of organs for a lot of money. Well, let me show you what fetal tissue looks like at 6 weeks gestation. This is generally around the times, or, you know, a little bit later, 6 to 10 weeks, where abortions are generally performed. So, here's that. That is fetal tissue at 6 weeks gestation. A lot of organs there. A lot of organs. I'll show you the next one. That's 10 weeks. Oh, you're getting a lot out of that one. Oh, wow. Oh, look at all them organs. What organs? Now, I'm not saying that there isn't money involved in harvesting organs and selling them. Look, there is a black market, and it's real. But let's take that nonsense idea that they're coming up with, okay, about late-term abortions, right? Oh, you know, they're having late-term abortions up to the moment of birth, and then they're killing them, and they're just killing the babies. Not happening, not a real thing. But, okay, she's saying, though, that they're doing abortions, again, 6 to 10 weeks, right? And then all the way up into the moment of birth, which, again, ridiculous, right? And they're saying, oh, they're taking these organs and they're putting they're selling them. It's a lot of money, a lot of money. Okay, well, why are organs bought on the black market to begin with? Well, generally, you would think it'd be to save somebody's life, right? If they can't get an organ transplant, or if they're on the, the waiting list for organ transplants are gigantic, ginormous. That said, how is the undeveloped organ of a fetus going to help an adult? Well, okay, to be fair, you could say, well, maybe it's not going to an adult. Maybe it's going to a child. Okay, fair enough. But that said, what you've seen, there are no organs there. And then, of course, there's the issue of, when you think about it, why are late-term abortions performed? Because they do happen. They're pretty rare, but they do happen. Why? Well, it's because the fetus did not develop properly, meaning that it's unlikely that any organs would be useful to transplant into another person to begin with. And so there is no logic in any of the things that they are saying. No logic at all. It's complete and utter nonsense. And the reason that I have to do an explainer is because, look, the propaganda for the right wing about, you know, the so-called pro-life movement is based on lying to people, coming up with just fake, like fake images, you know, using like fully formed looking, you know, fetuses, whatever, and saying, oh, that's what your baby looks like at 10 weeks. Well, I just showed you what it looks like after 10 weeks. It doesn't resemble anything like what the right wing says it does. So their movement is based on disinformation, and what they do is they appeal to the emotions of people in order to sucker them in. So you have to understand exactly how it works. And exactly, like, because you have to wonder, like, oh, why are so many people, why is this a main issue for so many, people who generally don't always vote Republican, but they become single issue voters and vote for Republicans because we're pro-life, we're pro-life. Well, this is why. It's because of the propaganda. It's because of nutty things. It's because of things that are not true being shown to them as if they are. So that's why it's important. Okay. And now that said, she's had a lot of other questionable things that she has said on different podcasts, etc. For example, Karamo also claimed that the January 6th attack on the Capitol building was Antifa. You know, because of course she did. Oh, it's Antifa. It's Antifa. Okay, what evidence do you have that it's Antifa? I got none. Trust me, bro. Trust me. Again, not true at all. No evidence of that. It's their guys and gals. So, look, this is just another example of Karamo's history of lying. Look, she even claimed that in 2020 she had personally seen election fraud. She saw the election fraud. It happened right in front of her. It was happening in the closet, and then the election fraud looked at her right in the eyes. That's what happened. No, it's ridiculous. Not true at all. Her statement was actually part of a challenge to the 2020 election. Guess what happened to it? Got thrown out by the Supreme Court. Like, look, that's just one of the challenges that were thrown out. And then you go, and look at all the different cases that right-wingers have brought, Trump's team brought to the courts. And some of them were Trump-appointed judges. They all got thrown out because there was no evidence. Just nothing to prove their insane claims. That's a fact. So not only is she lying, but she's also saying some pretty unhinged things. And this makes me wonder, again, this is in Michigan. She's running for, I believe, Secretary of State. And wow, between her and Tudor Dixon, I'm not sure which one's more insane. But I can tell you this, there's something wrong with Michigan Republicans. The Michigan GOP gone nuts. All right. Move on. Let's go to Twitter. Some being a blue check on Twitter is a fairly big deal. You know, it, I guess, tends to, lend a brand an air of legitimacy or a journalist, etc. But really, the reason that blue checks exist in the first place is to basically prevent people from impersonating you. That said, is that worth $20 a month? Well, apparently, a lot of people have responded, no. Now, since Chief Twit, Elon Musk, took over the company last week, he has done some controversial things with the company. He's fired some executives, dissolved the board, took full ownership, and now he's trying to make back some of the $44 billion he spent on the Bird app. Because that was a sound investment. According to Variety, Musk plans to jack up the price of the Twitter Blue subscription plan, which I never would have paid for. I don't know who actually pays for it. I think you're a sucker if you pay for Twitter. I mean, seriously, doesn't matter who owned it. Now, that Twitter Blue, however, would be raised from $4.99 to $19.99 a month and would make the service the only way to retain your verified user status. Users would have 90 days to join the subscription program or have their verified status revoked, per the report. Now, look, I'm not a blue check. I never had a blue check. I tried to apply for a blue check once, and I was rejected. Sad day for me, but I don't really care. But I am friends with a lot of blue checks. Know a lot of blue checks. Got some blue check followers, right? You think they're going to pay for them? I don't know one of those people, not one of those people, that are going to pay for this, that are going to give Elon Musk $20 a month to keep that little blue check. And again, I am friends with a lot of journalists, which, you know, there are people out there that would definitely love to impersonate them in order to try to, you know, create outrage, controversy, ruin their careers, things like that by saying like overtly racist and sexist, misogynistic things. Okay. That said, I'm not going to pay for it. No, the other option would be just to leave. That said, one of the ways I told you that I tried to become verified once. One of the ways that in order to do so is to send in basically your ID, your personal information. Okay. You'd also have to be mentioned, for example, written about in a mainstream news article that features your Twitter account, and then you have to prove that you were the owner of said account. So it's kind of a pain in the ass to actually be able to get verified in the first place. And again, verification prevents people from impersonating you, and it shows that you're an important person. Now, that's valuable to some people, I guess. For example, maybe an activist who might not be super, super well-known, super famous, but known enough to have people that might want to actually try to destroy your credibility online. So that said, I think Musk is trying to use that in order to make some of his money back after he was forced to buy Twitter at a gigantically inflated price. So he's struggling. And here's what I'll do. I'll make people pay for a blue check. Haha, got it. Yes, nailed it. Did you though? Did you really? No, because it looks like most people not interested. One person, writer Stephen King, wrote 20 bucks a month to keep my blue check? Fuck that. They should pay me. Damn. If that gets instituted, I'm gone like Enron. It ain't the money, it's the principle of the thing. Again, because I told you the steps that you actually have to go through in order to get verified in the first place. And it's not just celebrities, right? Other people were asked. In a poll posted on Sunday, tech entrepreneur and investor Jason Calacanis, who was working with Musk at Twitter in some capacity, unverified role, whatever. Again, speaking of ironic right there, he asked how much users would pay to be verified, with options such as $5, $10, or $15 a month, or wouldn't pay anything. What were the poll results? You're not going to be shocked to find out the vast majority, 81%, said, F that noise, I'm not going to pay a goddamn thing. You ain't getting 1 cent from me. I don't know what you heard about me, but you're not getting $1, or $5, or $10, or $20. Screw you. You can take that blue check and shove it up your ass. Just saying. Very, very clear.
Sexual anarchy?
No. No sexual anarchy. Although Twitter might have a different kind of anarchy, and not in a good sense. Look, we've seen racist posts on Twitter jump 500%.
The Republican Party's racist.
Yeah, generally. You got a lot of people that are right-wingers that have popped up out of the woodwork to start, basically proving the point that we say all the time. That to these people, free speech is them just being able to post the N-word everywhere. That's it. That's all they want to do. I mean, imagine like having this weird, deep desire inside of you to just be like, I really want to type that N-word. I just want to tape it over and over again. Like, what's wrong with you? Go touch graphs. Like, there's something wrong with your brain. Go get it fixed. I mean, people would rather go on Twitter and type the N-word than go to therapy. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Ridiculous. But look, that said, nobody's going to pay for it because it doesn't actually do anything for you to have a blue check. Not really. I mean, if anything, if he does this, it's going to be more of a mark of shame than anything else. showing that you were desperate enough to give Elon Musk your money to keep a check mark that, again, doesn't really do anything, doesn't give you like any sort of extra perks. In fact, you know, one of the things is allowing people to see certain articles ad free, and that's going away. So Musk is getting rid of that too. Doesn't really do anything other than, again, prove you are who you say you are. But then if you could just pay Elon Musk money to prove, you know, to be like, oh no, I'm totally, I am now Donald Trump on Twitter. So you can follow me at Real Donald Trump 2. And I am already verified. And, you know, that's me. And I'm going to start talking about how Medicare for All is amazing, because it is. And how, you know, the left is the best thing in the world. Maybe I'll get some right-wingers to be like, I'm going to become a socialist. Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah. Well, let's go in that direction. Hey, look, I gave Elon the money, and so I have to be verified. I am now Donald Trump on Twitter. The whole thing's ridiculous. Now, that said, let's go to Elon Musk's reaction, because this is the most hilarious part of the story. He said, quote, and this is a reply to King, "We need to pay the bill somehow. Twitter cannot rely entirely on advertisers. How about $8? He then later said, I will explain the rationale in longer form before this is implemented. It is the only way to defeat the bots and trolls. Wait, as I just laid out, why can't the bots and trolls just give you $8? Or $20? Well, they could. There's nothing stopping them, because you think Elon Musk isn't going to take their money? Of course he would. That's the whole point, is to make money. You think he cares about where his money's coming from? No, of course not. Of course not. Look, the fact is, Elon Musk is an idiot. He overpaid massively. Twitter was nowhere near worth $44 billion. What the hell was he thinking? That's why he tried to get away with it. And then, on top of that, chased off his advertisers, or at least some of them, and now he's like, oh God, oh, I will never financially recover from this. Ever. Where am I going to get my money? Oh no, I know. We'll charge for verification. And look, here's the other thing. Twitter was not exactly doing very well before Musk took over. They were not a thriving business, okay? No, Twitter was a mess. It's always been a mess. And by the way, it's always been a little bit of a hellhole. And what's even more funny when it comes to that is those executives that he had fired, they're actually going to do really, really well. They got golden parachutes. They're going to be fine. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of these executives literally laughing their way to the bank. Oh my God, I can't believe that idiot Elon Musk bought the company for so much money. Oh, guess what? Our golden parachute, it's tied to our stock valuation. And he overpaid it. The deal made us so much money. Thank you, Elon Musk. Thank you. Oh, those they cashed out so hard. So good. Lucky guys. That said, there are other Twitter employees that did not fare so well. These are the non-Twitter executives. These are the regular people that are working there. And Musk says he plans to get rid of about 3/4 of that workforce. So that's the flip side of this is, so here you have basically what a vulture capitalist, right? Coming in and doing a Bain Capital. Because that's pretty much how this is going to end up. Big old corporate buyout. You know, some of the stuff, or I should say a lot of the debt that Elon had taken on through this corporate takeover, this buyout, he's going to transfer over to the company. So now Twitter is going to be saddled with a ton of debt. So that means they're now even less profitable than they were before, which wasn't great. That means the employees, not the executives, but the employees get screwed over, and the workers also, or I'm sorry, the users also get screwed over along with the workers. So, well done, Elon Musk. If you wanted to show the world how much of a failure capitalism is, how much it sucks, well, congratulations. You just did that. Masterclass. Well done. Nailed it. Last story here. All right. We actually end the show with some good news, sort of. And I'm being a little cautious about it. So he aired. It appears that former President Jair Bolsonaro is getting ready to concede defeat. Now, this is following the very close and closely watched election in Brazil. So now on Sunday, leftist former President Lula da Silva won the election by about 1.8%. So that's a close election. And as a result, unfortunately, Bolsonaro supporters, they're doing the Trump thing, right? Rigged election, it's not fair, the stolen voter fraud, etc. And up until recently, Bolsonaro had been hiding out, not conceding, not saying anything about the election or about conceding. But according to Reuters, that might be changing, but we'll get to that. That said, there is a reason that Bolsonaro has been pressured to come out and concede publicly and may do so today. In fact, it's because Bolsonaro supporters have begun blocking roads to protest the results. On Sunday, they blocked the highway to the main airport in Sao Paulo, setting up barricades and chanting phrases like Lula the robber and starting fires in the middle of the road. Roadblocks and protests demanding a military coup had popped up as well to stop Lula from being certified have erupted in all but 2 of Brazilian states, according to reports. Brazil's Federal Highway Police also said that through over 300 protests had partially or completely shut down roads around the country, while authorities in the capital Brasilia closed traffic access to the central government, Esplanade, amid fears that the Bolsonaro supporters were planning to stage a demonstration in front of the Supreme Court. And there's a reason, of course. They believe that the Supreme Court gave Lula favorable treatment. Well, this is somebody who was put in prison, who was a political prisoner. Oh, no, Supreme Court favors this guy who was a political prisoner. Sure, right. Now, effects of this, by the way, of these shutdowns include widespread flight delays at Sao Paulo Airport after crew members and support staff were unable to get through the blockades. One mother who said she had voted for Bolsonaro was on the verge of tears after being stranded in the airport for 10 hours with 3 young kids and her in-laws. She said, quote, "Only in Brazil." I don't know about that. Again, they tried to do the same thing in the United States, although not quite as widespread. Still, one Brazilian man, a cab driver who had been involved in the pro-Bolsonaro demonstrations, went straight from the protest to the airport to pick up passengers impacted by the airport mayhem that he had helped cause. Quote, "I ditched my motorcycle near the protest and went right to work." He emphasized that the protests were peaceful, but admitted that he was hoping for a military coup. Great. That's wonderful. So what happens with the right wing is a leftist wins the election, and suddenly, immediately, his fans, the right wing fans are like, "Yo, we gotta overthrow him. We gotta overthrow him." Amazing how this works. But here's the issue, right? Again, the right wing is doing in Brazil what they do everywhere. They cry. They cry about the elections. They're not accepting the outcomes of these elections. Oh, it's a stolen election. It's rigged. It's rigged. It's rigged. Okay, where's your evidence? The election was really, really close. Oh, is that your evidence? Oh, really? Close elections happen all the time. Sometimes you just lose, and that sucks. Now, you can get mad about it all you want. That's fine. You can chant, "Not my president." That's totally fine. Whatever. But when you start talking about military coups, when you start talking about overthrowing the government and reinstalling the person who lost, what we also call a loser, well, that's a problem. That's when you should worry about this. Now, the article also, this is from Daily Beast, they go into how the truckers have made up one of Bolsonaro's key constituencies because they had benefited from some of his policies, including lowering the price of fuel. Now, look, I get it. I get it. Sure, you have an issue that impacts you, that impacts your career, your job. Okay, that makes sense. Sure. And I can understand why you're mad that you lost. But what they're doing is that they're trying to shut down the entire country as a result. To what end, though? Again, this was a free and fair election. If your plan is to force Lula to give up an election that he had won fair and square, well, that's not going to work. Which makes me concerned that some of these people might turn to violence or be provoked into violence by police officers. In fact, on Monday, Supreme Court Judge Alexandre de Moraes, the top election official in Brazil, ordered highway police to take all necessary measures to clear the roadblocks. He also threatened to imprison highway police chief if he refused to comply with the directive, adding that truckers still blocking the roads would be fined around $19,300 an hour. So, look, I get it. Yes, you cannot allow people to completely shut down all vital traffic. I get it. But I'm still concerned because then you get police and then you get insane right-wingers. Uh-oh. That could be an issue. Now, again, don't get me wrong. I despise Bolsonaro. I hate the guy. His policies are horrifying. Lots and lots of people got killed as a result of COVID, which, by the way, Bolsonaro's had 14 times already. But more importantly, Bolsonaro's allowed for the mass deforestation in the Amazon to allow for what? Cattle grazing? Now, one of the promises that Lula had said he was going to do is to rein that in, is to stop, deforesting the Amazon, which is important because if the Amazon is destroyed, well, bad things are going to happen. For one, so many rare plants and animals will disappear, including plants that could potentially yield cures to diseases that we haven't discovered yet. But also, the main thing is the Amazon rainforest reduces the amount of carbon in the atmosphere through recycling it. So if you have this deforestation, when it comes to the lungs of the world, I mean, that's pretty bad. And if you're concerned about climate change, also very, very concerning. Now, aside from the rainforest, Lula's policies have also benefited the poor, have benefited indigenous people, lifted millions of people out of poverty. And yet, under Bolsonaro, those groups had been crushed. So, that's it. According to Reuters, Bolsonaro will not contest his electoral defeat and plans to address the nation later on Tuesday. His communication minister, Fabio Faria, told Reuters, as a growing number of political allies have advised him to concede. Now, I'm going to tell you what I think the reason is here. But, good. Close political allies, including the chief of staff, Ciro Nogueira, and his vice president, Hamilton Moro, have begun to make contact with the Lula camp to discuss transition. Others, including the Speaker of the lower house of Congress, called on Bolsonaro government to respect the election results. Already they're ahead of the Republicans. Great. Good to see, actually. And not so good if, dealing with Republicans, who a lot of them voted against certification. That said, the powerful agriculture lobby, CNA, representing farmers who were important campaign donors for Bolsonaro, said it was ready for conversations with the incoming government, which will take office on January 1st. So, look, money. I think that's an important thing. You have money, you have transportation, you have supply chains, you already have like inflation that's a result of supply chain issues. These truckers shut the country down. That's going to hurt a lot of people. And so, yeah, you even have the Bolsonaro government that are like, oh, God, no, can't do that. We're shutting down important things. We can't have that. Like, yeah, you guys can have your temper tantrum, but we got to get back to business. So, again, if Bolsonaro concedes and calls for unity, great. That's what he's supposed to do. And again, would make him better than Donald Trump. But ultimately, I think it's as a result, or I think it's going to be a result of the pressure from other politicians and business groups to try to end the blockades that are very, very vital. These are choking the country. In fact, look, a doctor in upstate Sao Paulo, for example, who voted for Bolsonaro, said, look, we don't like these roadblocks. They have disrupted vital supplies to perform hemodialysis on patients at a hospital in Ribeirão Preto. I'm sorry, I can't see pronunciations very well, but he told Reuters, quote, I am so angry that Bolsonaro is ending his term with a totally reprehensible attitude that is putting the health of people at risk. So, look, that's actually a responsible answer. Great. Great. But again, we'll see what happens. But the hope is that Bolsonaro takes the advice, concedes the election, and we finally have a peaceful transfer of power. Like we should. And I know I spelled Bolsonaro wrong in my Chiron. All right. Anyway, that's all I got today. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Let me read some super chats here from you all. Dango Bangle says David Zaslav owns CNN after WB merged with Discovery. One of the first things he did with CNN was install a pro-Trump extremist at the very top. Yes, and that's why CNN has been going in the direction of the right wing, which is really sad. Boulder Crypto Sissy Dragon says, if you can early vote, do it. Otherwise, why watch? Yeah, look, early vote or just vote. That's important. Madi Darno says, the folks in the community are the best in the kindness. I owe you all much. No understanding it. Much love and appreciation. Thank you, Madi. And thank you for being the mod. So really, really appreciate your work and helping to keep the chat room in the YouTube space nice and respectful. And I appreciate it very much. And again, you're absolutely right. One of the best communities on the web. Evil Mara says, can't stay for the show. Hoping the dollar reduce makes up for it. Well, thank you. I appreciate that as well. You always, you know, if anybody misses the show, don't worry. The YouTube clips will come out. And of course, you can always rewatch the stream as well. And Gabby Mathis with a very kind $5 says, love Lula. Hell yeah. You know, it's whenever I think of what's going on in Brazil with Lula da Silva, it just makes me think of Michael Brooks and how, you know, he'd have been very happy today if he were still here. So, you know, Michael was a real one. That's for sure. And most importantly, what Michael talked about most and was great about is creating an international socialist workers movement. Not just in this country, not just in one country, not just, you know, here or there, but everywhere, that makes sure to, you know, protect people against exploitation and really lift up all of humanity. And that's the thing that I, you know, it's one of the views that Michael held that I respected the most, because I think it's one of the most important, you know, goals that you could set for the world. It really is, really was somebody who is sorely needed. Right. With that said, I'm gonna head out. Thank you all again for going around the nation today. Oh, you know what? Let me go here to Twitch, and we'll look and see what's going on there. Deb in Michigan, thank you. Oh, that was from yesterday, so not a whole lot on going on Twitch. So we'll raid anyway. Let's raid into a Surfs raid. All right. With that, thank you, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great night. Love you. And remember, change begins with you.
God bless you.
Oh yeah.
Go for it, Chris. Come at me. We will keep kicking your ass every single day.
Tolerate. Big, massive dump.
Obama.
It's the devil, okay? I want to go to space. We're under attack.